ladies and gentlemen. We're going to get started. We have some special guests with us tonight. We're going to do a accommodation, so I'm going to go from here to that podium and we'll get started. Thank you. Okay, I'm going to try to make it work from here. We have some guests I'd like to invite up as we present a accommodation to them. And also, we have with us tonight President of Akron City Council, Margot Somerville. So Margot, come on up. Deputy Chief, Sergeant, come on up. While they're making their way up, I want to share with you a program that the Akron Police Department took on. We did a couple of these, did 4 of them actually this year, and it's called the 10-Second Challenge. And what they did was they created a program where young folks at the elementary school level can have a positive experience with police officers. So I'm going to share with you what that's all about, and then we'd like to present them with this accommodation as our way of saying thank you for going above and beyond to make a difference in the lives of some young folks. Whereas building relationships with our community is a priority for the Akron Police Department, the Community Relations Bureau is composed of 2 groups. And when I say the 2 groups, I feel like it's Law and Order, where they say 2 groups on there at the beginning of it. It just hit me as the same thing. But it is 2 groups, the Community Relations Unit and the Community Engagement Team. And whereas the Community Engagement Team consists of officers assigned to specific areas of the city, these officers respond to ongoing and persistent community neighborhood issues. They attend all council ward meetings, host community events to engage with the public, and whereas the Community Relations Unit can create, implement, or partner with groups to facilitate community programs and events, i.e. Safety Town, Senior Safety, Alice, Active Shooter Training, Operation Safe Space, Christmas with a Cop, and Police Explorers. And whereas the Community Relations Team created the APD 10-Second Community Challenge. The 10-Second Community Challenge is a pop-up event where APD officers go to an Akron public school and surprise students and their parents with a trip to a local convenience store to have a chance to grab some treats on behalf of the officers. The treats may be candy, chips, and sodas, not gift cards. One of the young men on one of the first ones, when they did this, the first thing he did was he went right to the gift card rack, and he was plucking off some pretty good ones, but that got corrected real quick. Whereas the department has held 4 challenge events with great success for the students, their parents, and community individuals who were in the store at the time of the dashes, feedback has been outstanding, as all believe this is a very positive and memorable way for young children to hold a lifelong positive memory of the police officers who are there to protect and support them. Whereas this council and the Akron community wish to recognize officers Melissa Martinez, Tavon Bowman, Renelle Massengill, Kara Workman, and Christopher Jaramillo, Sergeant Damber Suba, and Lieutenant Michael Murphy, and Deputy Chief Michael Miller for their outstanding service to the city of Akron and to the young ladies and gentlemen that participated in the 10-Second Challenge. This effort is above and beyond the call of duty and is not required of you, but please know that this community recognizes your desire to be the utmost professional you can be for lasting and positive relations with the citizens of the city of Akron and Summit County. So now, therefore, the Council of the County of Summit and the residents of this county wish to honor these officers this 15th day of June in the year 2026 for making lasting, lifelong, and positive relations with the young students within the city of Akron and Summit County. So congratulations. We appreciate you very, very much. And I want to brag just one quick minute about a colleague of mine whose father is a retired Akron police officer, Officer Lloyd Ford. Brandon Ford's father, about 5 years ago, maybe 6 years ago now, we were at a Young Black Professionals meeting, and we were talking about how police officers can be more engaged in the community. And Lloyd shared with us that oftentimes officers will dig into their pocket and they'll, an area that they patrol, they might buy a pizza for some young kids at the park, or they might buy a basketball if they see kids are wanting to shoot some hoops but they don't have a basketball to do that. They don't get reimbursed for that. That's how professional these ladies and gentlemen in our safety forces want to be with the folks that they patrol. It's an outstanding addition to their professionalism that they offer us. So that triggered a program, or not a program, but a fund that we created at the Akron Community Foundation, and because of Lloyd's comments and efforts to push that, we created the Summit County Police and Fire Community Engagement Fund that's at the Akron Community Foundation, where officers around the county, not just the city of Akron, can petition for some dollars to do this very kind of thing. And you may think, oh, it's a pizza, it's a basketball. It's a life memory with those young people that engage with these ladies and gentlemen who wear the badge and protect them. It's highly important for the community to be strong and safe. When you approach anything from a position of respect and mutual understanding, good things come from that. So these ladies and gentlemen, again, deserve your appreciation with a round of applause. Thank you. And that's not the end of this program. This program will continue on. When school starts after the summer break, we're going to continue to do this. So if you feel that you can support the program, there's information on the table outside. If you want to give a gift, $5, $10, or a lot of zeros, we'll take them. Thank you.
Thank you, Councilman Wilhite. First, I'd like to welcome a group of summer interns that we have here today from the prosecutor's office. They're learning about what the prosecutors do and working hard this summer. So thank you for being here with us today. We have a member of the public who would like to speak, Ms. Lynette Harper. If you want to come to the podium. Yeah, you have 3 minutes. And if you could, when you get to the podium, just state your name and your address, please. Thank you.
I live in Saferstein Towers 1, and we're having a lot of issues with our manager. We've written a petition, we've sent letters, we've sent emails, we've done everything, and nothing is being done. I decided to let the issue go. Well, just recently she started up again. Now she's going around bad-mouthing me to other residents, and I just wanted the council to know what's going on in one of the properties of AMHA, and maybe you guys can handle the situation. I don't know. I have a list of things that have happened, and if anybody wants to take notice of them, you're more than welcome to do so. Thank you.
We have a final hearing tonight on the Copley Township's petition for construction of single county drainage improvement.
Okay. Ladies and gentlemen, we will open the public hearing for the Copley Ditch petition number 38. And for anybody wishing to speak in favor or in opposition of during this hearing, will you please stand and be sworn in by the court reporter over here to my right, just under the overhead. If you wish to speak on any of the issue in the hearing today, please stand and be sworn in. That's opponents and proponents. Okay, great. I'm going to read in the petition, and then we're going to have the engineer's office start off with a presentation, and then we'll hear from individuals that we have correspondence from, I'll call you forward, and you're welcome, whichever position that you have to speak. The petition is for the Copley Copley Ditch for the county to clean, remove obstructions from, regrade, restore, reconstruct, stabilize the drainage course, and install channel improvements to mitigate future erosion, scour, and flooding. We understand that there may be claims for composition. In addition to hearing about the overall project tonight, County Council will also hear and consider any claims for compensation and damages during the hearing as required by the Ohio Revised Code, Section 6131.19, which provides in part, A, at the final hearing or at such time as the final hearing is adjourned, to hear claims for compensation for damages. County Council shall hear any competent evidence offered by any affected owner upon the county engineer's estimate of damages and upon any claim filed for compensation or damages. And item B, upon consideration of all evidence, the county engineer's schedule of estimated damages and a view of the affected property. If council desires a view, council shall determine the amount of damages for each claim filed by an owner and shall also determine the value of any land or any other property to be taken for the proposed improvement. With that, Mr. Koontz, if you would please.
All right. Thank you, Mr. Wilhite and members of council. I'm David Koontz with the Summit County Engineer's Office, project manager for Surface Water Management District projects. And this is the hearing for Copley Ditch, Copley Meadows, Copley County Ditch number 38. So the project runs from the Norton Corp line and follows the Copley Ditch northerly across Wright Road to the Copley Meadows allotment and angles northwesterly to Jacoby Road. Goes then west of Copley Road for about 1,000 feet. We note that the channel will be cleared, obstructions removed, trees, debris, sandbars. We're going to regrade part of the channel, repair channel banks and locations, restore connectivity to the adjacent floodplain, stabilize the stream banks in certain locations, and a big part of the project is to provide access so we can get to the channel for future repairs and maintenance. And as a result, the flood elevations will be lower after the project is completed, and the velocity will be lower, which will help mitigate some of the stream erosion that has been experienced really in all our streams. The benefits of having in the updated county ditch, when the project's done, this easement will provide a new easement over the ditch, the full length of it, other than there are 2 parcels that we have excluded from that. And the problem was these ditches were built maybe in the 30s, some under Public Works, some through a ditch petition process. But prior to 1957, there was no accommodation that required the county to perform maintenance. There was an easement there which would allow the county to do so, and the county did have 1 or 2 ditch crews in the past, but the money used for that work had to come out of the general budget, and that's a real problem now to have anything extra from the budget. And until 1957, then all new petitioned drainage improvements do include a accommodation for the county to have maintenance assessment put on. This particular project will not have an assessment for either maintenance or construction. Okay, the FEMA project, or the FEMA impact on this project is that once the project is done, we can submit the revised modeling, hydrology, hydraulics to FEMA. They will review the computer modeling and determine if they will agree with revised FEMA mapping. So we hope when we're done to see a reduction in the floodplain limits, and there could be some homes that won't need flood insurance. Now, we don't know for sure till after the project's complete and the survey is completed, but that is the goal on this project. And we've seen on the preliminary mapping reduction in the floodplain limits and the flood level of the stream. The project cost for this, total cost $1.79 million for design, easements, and construction. The Surface Water Management District does have funding to cover all of these costs, and Surface Water Management District revenues coming in every 6 months will be used for the maintenance of this as needed in the future. In order to get this easement in place, we are using the Ohio Revised Code Petition Drainage Improvement Process 6131. But there are no assessments on this particular project because all benefiting properties are within the Surface Water Management District. I won't list every date, but starting in April of 2025, Copley Township signed the petition for improvements, filed it, and then we followed the steps per 6131 of public viewing, a first hearing, comments were available to the public. We did get authorization to proceed with the design. We did so, and then this spring, the plans were completed. I filed the final report, and we've got to the point of today with the final hearing in front of you. The next step after this then would be legislation accepting the plans, the compensation, the easement, and authorizing construction bidding. We list the engineering steps. We did start back in 2022 with some study work on Copley Ditch and Black Pond Outlet. We expanded it to the Copley Meadows area, and it was determined that the Copley Ditch, Copley Meadows portion would proceed, and that is the plans that are here being presented now. The title sheet of the improvement plans is shown there, and the title sheet of the easement dedication plat. Both of these full documents were filed as part of the final report. A little bit about the easements. Like I said, under Ohio Revised Code 6131, they do give the county the right and responsibility to perform maintenance. There'll be new easements along the stream, not much different than the existing easement, but there is some changes. And like I said, there are 2 parcels that we are just going to stick with the existing easements in order to satisfy those owners. There are also going to be some access easements. There are some places where it's difficult to get to the stream from a road, so we'll need an access easement to do that. Those are compensated as well. All 51 easements will be on the plat drawing. That actually is 49 easements now because 2 were removed. Regarding the easement compensation, the value of the land where these easements are located is affected by the fact that there's an existing county right-of-way there, a riparian corridor, and a FEMA flood zone. The riparian, well, all those features already put a restriction on the use of the land. The easement values were appraised by Roger Sowers of Sowers and Bowie. I do have Roger Sowers here tonight if needed to speak to any of the appraisals. Also, I have here Brian Tebelak, who was in contact with the owners. Now, I've got noted that the way that the owners can file an exception is with the clerk of council, and they were notified of this by the notices that went out from the clerk. And we did have 4 exceptions that were filed. And we have made revisions to the plans to try to address 3 of these. 2 of them, we've actually removed the proposed easement, and we are just going to show on the easement plat the existing easement. On a 3rd one, we did make a revision to a proposed access driveway so that it did not angle across the back of the property of a parcel. Instead, it stays in the old road right-of-way. It's an unimproved road right-of-way that goes next to their parcel, and we were able to work that out with the engineer to remove that from their property. Then there's a 4th exception then was filed by the Spring Garden Waldorf School in dispute of the amount of the easement. And we did not recommend changing the recommended amount that came from the appraiser. So that's something for council to consider. I have also on our screens the 8 factors for consideration by council, with the cost and location of construction. Some of it cannot be in a different location because that's where the main channel is now, so that's where the work is. We did at one point consider relocating one segment of the stream to an older location that we found on a very old drawing. I think the farmer relocated the stream at least 75 years ago, and it was determined at this point to try to put it back in that old location would be an environmental nightmare. In effect, it's, to relocate a stream is not easy to do. We'd have to pay a lot of mitigation fees, and it was determined that we would not do that. There were several locations where we added a 2-stage ditch, which is a geometric design to help carry excess flow while maintaining the main channel for low flow conditions. That helps with the velocity and some storage for the storms. And we did add an overflow swale upstream of Sunny Acres Drive. This was the area where currently, during heavy storm events, the stream overflows onto the street. It runs southerly down the street and then over the curb and into some basements that have garages. There's, as you might imagine, if the garage is in the basement lower than the street and the street floods, you're going to get water in your basement. So this overflow swale will take that flow instead and will prevent it from getting into the street. So that was something that could have been somewhere upstream of that location, and they did find the best location for that. The cost was developed by EnviroScience, and it's commensurate with the type of work being done. Compensation for the land, as I mentioned, was performed by professional independent appraiser Roger Sowers. And we did send those reports to all homeowners on April 3rd. That was ahead of the official notice going to them from the clerk, so they had plenty of time to review those appraisals and get back to us if they had an issue with it. The effect on the land is such that there will be lower water levels, less flooding along the waterway because we're clearing out the stream, adding some overflow swales, some 2-stage ditches, and also directing some floodwater into the Pansner wetland, which they're pleased to have. They want water there. So that was a consideration of the project to get it to that point. And the effect on the lower terminus is that there will be less flow leaving the Copley Township and getting into the rest of Pigeon Creek and Wolf Creek. Like I said, the sufficiency of the outlet, we are reducing the amount of flow to the outlet. So that's, we didn't have to check that sufficiency then. Benefits to public welfare, as I mentioned, reduced flood levels and reduced sediment pollution. Again, that's also the benefits to land, public corporations in the state, because that carries on downstream. And then finally, the consideration, if you find that the project cost is greater than the potential benefit, you can dismiss the petition. However, in this case, even with the expensive costs of $1.79 million, that's much less than the value of the land along the project. And these are just the properties immediately adjacent to the project. It will have some positive impact for some properties not that close as well. We've proven the project necessity through the preliminary reports, preliminary hearings, and so forth. And we have demonstrated a benefit to the public welfare. So that's the presentation. I guess now it's up to council on consideration of the exceptions. I can come back up as needed.
Thank you, Mr. Coons. At this time, I'm going to ask, ladies and gentlemen, anybody who wishes to speak as a proponent of this project, a proponent of the project. If you do, please come to the podium and state your name and address for us. I'll make this request 3 times, and then we will move on to opponents. Anyone wishing to speak in favor of the project?
That does remind me, I did ask the Copley Township trustees if they would like to speak tonight and come to the meeting, or if they would like me to just say on their behalf that they are in favor of this project. And they asked me to just do that on behalf of the petitioners, Copley Township trustees. They hereby present the project.
Great. And Mr. Coons, that we're to believe that they're in favor of the project?
Yes.
Thank you. Okay, 2 more times, asking anyone who's a proponent. A proponent? Yes, ma'am. Your name and address, please.
Shauna Graffier, Copley Township Planning and Zoning Director, to speak on behalf of Copley. Thank you to David and his team. Our Board of Trustees do support the ditch improvement project for water mitigation and flooding. We also know that David has worked with our residents. We do appreciate some of those considerations that have been given to our residents at this time. There may be some outstanding questions regarding the measurement, the variable measurement of the ditch along in those easements, but overall our trustees do support the ditch project.
Great.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thanks for being here. Okay, one more time for proponents of the project. Okay. Hearing or seeing none, we'll move on to opponents of the project. And Mr. Coons, I understand that 3 of the 4 exceptions have been resolved. Did I understand that correctly?
We have addressed 3 of the 4, and I couldn't speak for them to say it's been 100% resolved. They certainly have the opportunity to come up and say anything tonight.
Okay. With that then, I have the 4 property owners that have given exemptions. So if Timothy or Peggy Klugston is here and wishes to speak, Mr. or Mrs. Klugston. Okay, hearing or seeing neither, we'll move on. Thomas Massara, attorney representing Spring Garden Waldorf School. Please come to the podium. Please state your name, sir.
Thank you.
And you can give your comments.
My name is Tom Massara. I'm an attorney in Summit County. I've been practicing here for over 40 years. I represent Spring Garden Waldorf School. Spring Garden Waldorf School is located in Copley Township. They've been there since 1994. It's preschool through 8th grade, and they have approximately 170 students annually. So as I begin these remarks, though, we're not opposed, I'm Italian, so my hands are going to go all over the place. We're not opposed to the project. What we have objection to is the amount of compensation that's being offered to Spring Garden Waldorf School. So when they first got the package, when Spring Garden first got the package from the county engineer's office, one of the board members, who happens to be a longtime friend of mine, called me and said, would you be interested in looking at this for us? And he knew that I had experience. Some of you know me, most of you don't. I spent 20 years as a city law director in Summit County. I was the first law director for the city of Greene when they made the transition from township to city. I was out there from 1993 to 2000. And I was also the first law director for the city of New Franklin, and I was out there for 13 years. So in those positions, I had to deal with a lot of eminent domain questions, because these are taking questions, but I did most of them from the government side, obviously. I even did some on behalf of the county when we would have for New Franklin, for example, had a road widening project on Manchester Road. We wanted the county to lay sewer while we were doing that to kill two birds with one stone. So I negotiated those easements on behalf of the county as well. So I've got a lot of experience in this. I've represented other property owners when easements would have been sought against their properties. So I agreed to get involved. So I took a look at everything. And let me just give you the basics. I gave you a packet. Hopefully some of you were able to read it or had a chance to read it. So I won't go over everything in there, but I want to go over some issues. The initial offer in the appraisal was for $3,100. I had discussions with Brian Tevelek. He came out to the property on May 4th, met with the administrator. Amy Hecky is here with me. Board members are here tonight. We met out there. We went over things. Brian said, make a counter proposal. If you're not happy with this, make a counter proposal. So I did. On May 11th, we sent a counter proposal to the county engineer. That whole proposal is in your packet. And on May 20, we sent that on May 11th. On May 29th, we got the email from Brian Tevelek saying, your counter proposal is rejected. The offer remains at $3,100. And so at that point, I had no other recourse but to file an objection because we think the project would work. It was $10,000. And I'll get to that in a minute. I'll go over some of that with you. We haven't had any communication since. I was kind of hoping maybe one of those two properties that they weren't going to take an easement on was ours, but it wasn't. So we're the only ones left. The basis of our objection really is twofold. It's the size of the easement and it's the amount of compensation we're being offered. So you have a copy of this map in the materials that I gave, but this one's more compelling. This is the one we received from the county engineer. This little square here is Spring Garden property, and you can see that big yellow area running through it. It runs right through the middle of the property. The easement is a 1.3 acre permanent easement, and this property is 3.9 acres. So all of us, they made it easy to do the math. It's 1/3. 1/3 of the property is being taken up by this easement. Runs directly through the center of the property and impacts 1/3 of the property. And I will tell you, when we first saw this, there was fear, because this looks like this easement is 150 feet wide. 150 feet wide, takes up all that property. The creek is maybe 2 to 4 feet wide throughout the property, and then the banks, where the banks of the creek are, maybe 8 to 10 feet. So we're questioning why they need 150 feet on this easement. So I would go so far as to say that if any of you received a map like this from a government saying that on your property they wanted to take a 1/3 permanent easement, you would have some concerns too. We talked to Brian Tevelak. We got some relief. They've told us we're not doing much to your property. And that was true. Initially, they're not going to do much. The work will not be extended, which made us very happy. And I'll get to why in a minute. But the bottom line is, with an easement this big, the engineer could come by any time, legally come by any time and do what they like with this easement. They can come and level the whole thing if they want to. I don't believe they will, but that possibility exists. So our response was, well, if you're not going to do much on the property, how about a temporary work easement? Come in, do the work you want to do, get out, we're all happy. No, we can't do that. How about making it smaller? Why does it have to be so big? Sorry, we can't do that. So size is the first issue. This is a big easement. It takes up 1/3 of the property. The compensation, you have in the packet that I gave you a compensation analysis. Looks like this. The property was appraised by Roger Sowers, and I will say at this point that I have a lot of respect for Roger Sowers. I used to hire Roger when I was a city law director to do appraisals for Green and do appraisals for New Franklin. I have a lot of respect for his opinion. He's got the value at $15,000 per acre. The easement is 1.3754 acres times 15,000 is 20,000. But the key here is they're only offering us 15% of that amount, so $3,100. We believe that percentage is too low. That's the heart of the objection. Again, we're not opposed to the project, we're just opposed to what we're being offered as compensation. In my experience, 10 to 15% is for a temporary work easement. That's what we would offer property owners to come on their property, expand the road, work on their property, and then be done with it. We would give them 10 to 15% for that temporary work easement and then be done. The permanent easements were anywhere from 25% to 50%, based on how extensive this easement is on your property. If it's along the side, the street, a little bit in, it's not going to be as much because it's not an impact on your property. This is a big impact on our property. The comparables are used to set the value. I understand that. The percentage is arbitrary. So we're asking for 50% because it goes through the center of our property and takes up 1/3 of the parcel. I also attached, when I made the counteroffer, and you have it too, it's something from the internet that shows generally what is paid when, a property goes along your property line, 26 to 49%, crosses your property, 50%, crosses with surface restrictions, 51 to 74. This isn't just some hokum that I pulled off of the internet. These are valid figures. This fits with the experiences that I've had for these kind of takings. So we're asking for more of that. Mr. Schmidt, that's where the 10,000 came from, because we asked for 50%. We were willing to negotiate, but there was no negotiation. We gave our counter proposal, and 2 weeks later I got a response that, sorry, we're not doing anything. The amount remains at $3,100. I keep being told that we can't get more money because we need our own appraiser. We need to go out and get our own appraisal of this property. There is no requirement that a property owner has to get an appraisal in these taking situations. In the taking cases that I've dealt with in my 40-some years, I don't ever remember there being 2 appraisals. Now, I'm 72, so I forget a lot of things. I think, maybe the only person on this panel that's older than me is maybe Mr. Donofrio, because we've both been around for a long time.
Well, there goes a vote.
And he understands the memory issues. But I don't remember ever doing that. I don't remember ever asking a property owner for another appraisal. The process works like this. The government gets the appraisal, sends it to the property owner, and then we have negotiations. Never ask for a second appraisal. It's generally accepted that the owner of a property is competent to assess the value of their own property. So we would just talk to them about that. So you need your own appraisal. Okay, I gave them a different appraisal. I went to the county fiscal's office and said, here's the appraisal from the county fiscal office. Let's just use this number. And I was told that is not an accurate value of the property. Now, I'm sure when Mr. Donofrio was treasurer, or whatever it was you were before, treasurer, he would, yes, fiscal office, he would not have agreed with that. If Kristen Scalise was here tonight, she probably wouldn't agree to that, but that's what I've been told, is that value that's on the county fiscal appraisal is not a valid value for that property. There's not that much difference between the two. I mean, if you look at this sheet, you know, the county, Rogers appraisal was $15,000 per acre. The fiscal office value is $17,000 per acre. So we're not talking a large deal of money, but I just didn't feel that it was necessary for Spring Garden to make that expense of getting our own appraisal when it wasn't necessary. Our objection is more about the percentage and not the underlying value and not about the project itself. You've got the compensation analysis there, and I think we're entitled to some more money. One thing I want to point out, and hopefully you have had a chance to read the narrative that I included about how Spring Gardens plans to use this property. Students at Spring Garden Waldorf School spend about 50% of their time outside getting their education. It's focused on getting them outside, which I think is a wonderful thing. How many of us have said these days, look at these kids. All they do, they're on their phone, they're on their tablets, they're on their computers, they're playing games, and Spring Garden sends them outside to look at that, and this 4-acre parcel is a tremendous educational experience for Spring Garden. And again, I hope you have a chance to read that narrative because it's very enlightening. Outdoor education is important, and this was just pure coincidence here. When I was getting ready for this, I received my conservancy from the Cuyahoga Valley National Park, you know, the spring and summer issue, and lo and behold, they have an article in there about experiential learning is essential. And they talk about how they bring second graders from the Akron Public Schools out to Cuyahoga Valley Environmental Education Center to spend time and be outdoors and learn about it. Here's a couple of quotes from people who have been part of that program. This is from a teacher. Outdoor education is so important in allowing our kids to have hands-on experience in nature. It was beautiful to watch and take part in this field trip, shared one APS teacher. A student added, I love this place. I love the frogs. I wanted to take one home, but this is their home. I'm going to bring my mom here. So it's just important. Outdoor education is important. Spring Garden Waldorf School is about an outdoor educational experience. These 4-acre parcel is an important part of that experience. It's not just 4 acres that is undeveloped and houses can't be put on it. We know that. There's a large riparian area there, and we don't plan to build on it. The beauty of it is it stay as it is so that they can use it to educate the students. So we believe that $3,100 is not enough. Anybody questions for me?
Any questions from members of the committee? Members of council? Who does? Oh, Joe, go ahead, I'm sorry.
Hello, Mr. Becerra.
Hello.
I have a question. The easement they're talking about obviously is to go work on this ditch, and the reason it's permanent is to come back in the future, unlike we had to do this time, decades later, and get these easements where we didn't have them previously. Is it your understanding that they plan to be there on a regular basis, or that they plan to be there every few decades?
I don't know.
Okay.
We don't know that. We know that they're coming in now, and again, we were told what the initial work is going to be, and we were very delighted with that because it's not going to be extensive. They're not bringing machinery in there. But our fear is they're going to have this permanent easement forever, so they can come in and do, by law, I believe you're a lawyer, by law, they can come in and do what they'd like on that property once they have that permanent easement.
Did they talk to you about which bank they plan to work from or anything like that?
Not really. I mean, Brian Tebelek came out and, explained what they were going to do. And again, we were happy with the initial work, but we're not happy what we're being offered. And it is really not a question of money. I mean, Amy Hecky is here with me. She's the administrator. She told me any money we receive, any money Spring Garden receives from this project is going to be invested in that property to enhance it and do what needs to be done there to help our students learn from that property.
And just to clarify a point, although I don't think it matters much because you said the percentage is the big issue, not the valuation. But, we talk about, and I think it's important since this is a county hearing and the county fiscal officer's appraisal is on trial, it seems. But
yes, I was
it is a more accurate appraisal to have an appraiser go out individually to a property rather than the property tax appraisal, which is done en masse and not with an actual site visit most of the time and done purely on size of the lots and frontage and things like that. Just so everyone's clear on why you were told that, it's because it's a more accurate appraisal to have an actual appraisal done than the en masse fiscal office appraisals. But given that, we're really going to talk about the percentage rather than the value, probably
it's the percentage.
Super important.
It's really the percentage. I mean, if you want to give us 50%, we'll take the $15,000 an acre, because that will get us up to 10,000. Not that that's, again, we were open to negotiations, but there were no negotiations here. First time I've ever been involved in a taking where there's no give and take. It's just, here's your price.
Sure.
We made a counter offer. Sorry, here's your price. Go get your own appraisal.
What did they tell you about the machines? Maybe I missed that part.
They're not going to be using heavy machinery there.
Not on this
That's what
property?
not this time around, yes.
Okay.
Yeah, and I don't,
Some
I
of it
can't
will,
answer
I assume.
what's going to
Some of
happen in the
construction
future.
will, but not on this property.
Not on this one, yes. But again, this picture,
Right, yeah, I mean,
that's
a big
pretty
issue.
frightening. I mean, that's 150 feet across, and it takes up, so in theory, they could come and do this, and my point is, well, yeah, you're not going to do a lot now, but what if you come down later and you start doing more to this? We can't ask for more money because we've already gotten the easement, so we're asking for it now.
Is that 75 feet on either side of the creek?
Looks like, yep, 150, yeah. Yeah, you got the math right, Mr. Schmidt. Yeah, it comes in, if you look at this, the creek kind of comes down through the middle, so it's mostly 75 on both sides. Anybody else? Okay, thank you very much.
Thank you, Ms. Sarah, appreciate that. Mr. Koontz from the engineer's office, can you address any further comments on the two issues that were raised, one being size, the other being percentage?
Yeah, on the size, the easements were established to follow the pattern of that existing easement, which was 30 feet each side beyond the top of bank. So however wide the bank is, what our surveyor found out there when they surveyed it last year, the proposed easement then would be 30 feet further on either side. And again, following the pattern of that existing easement that was established in 1938 for the section further south. And as far as the initial work, yeah, he is correct. For that segment of the project, we have asked the contractor to have a team go in, or crew, with hand tools and clear debris out of the stream and not use heavy equipment on that segment and really many segments of the stream. As far as the percentage, I could show a map that shows where the riparian corridor is with respect, and the floodplain with respect to the easement. Hey, Mark, does the map follow the presentation? Or? Okay. And then Roger Sowers could speak to the percent, but it would be SGWS sheet 3, I think is what it was called. Oh boy, the colors don't come through very well. There is a second page. Yeah, there you can see the parcel in question is almost a square, I believe. It's outlined in yellow. And our proposed easement is the heavy line, and you can see it even is dimensioned 150 feet. What I did instruct our surveyor when he prepared the easement, I said if you go just 30 feet beyond the bank, we're going to have a very hard to define squiggly line. I said try to even it up and make it as few courses as possible. So he's got basically one angle point on each side. That does make the width 150 feet. If you just had some kind of squiggly line following the creek, it would be a little bit less. But again, to make it simpler to find in the field, not just to draw on paper, but to locate it in the future, ask them to make it straight lines. So the easement is the heavy dashed lines, and then there is a green line which does have a kind of a wavy pattern. That is the riparian setback corridor, and a pair of lines like that. And then there is a blue line on either side. That is the FEMA floodplain limit. So these are the riparian and floodplain from the county GIS mapping. And so that was what currently impacts that property and has a factor in the value. Did you want to ask Mr. Sowers more about the value?
Yes, if I could. Also, it was mentioned from Mr. Massara that his past practice, it was anywhere from 25 to 50%. And if I understood you right, Mr. Massara, you said it was 15% that had been offered?
15% has been offered, yes.
Did you want to address that at all, David?
No, I'd leave that to Mr. Sowers.
Okay,
yeah.
Mr. Sowers, if you would please, sir. State your name and address, please.
Good afternoon, Roger Sowers.
Your address?
My address, 55 South Miller Road, Fairlawn.
Thank you. On the appraised value, the 15% is what, in your opinion? Is that
Appropriate compensation for the placement of the easement that would affect the remaining property rights in that area.
the issue of size was brought up? 150-foot wide piece that would be a permanent easement across the property. But if we're understanding the school's future, current and future use of that property, it's going to be open outdoor classroom. There's no intention of constructing any kind of structures on that property. It'll remain an open piece of land. Is that your understanding?
That's my understanding.
Okay. Any other questions from members of the committee?
I'll let Joe go first.
No,
Oh,
I'm,
Joe,
not on
I'm
the
sorry, I didn't
committee.
see Joe.
You're on the committee.
So, yes, my question is, so since the,
Rita, could you use your mic, please?
Spring Garden, the Spring Garden easement that since it's such a large area that you're wanting to take, but if I understand, you guys were saying that you're going to go in there with some tools. You're not going to come in there with big machinery, and you're only going to fix a certain area. But by taking that large amount, you could come in there anytime, with it being a permanent easement. You could come in there anytime and do whatever you want, and you could even bring big machinery in there. So that was my question. Does this flood area, does it flood right now, this area?
It's in a 100-year floodplain.
Okay. Okay, I was just wondering about that.
It was a what year floodplain? I'm sorry.
I believe a 100-year floodplain, yes, primarily.
Is that where a lot of the problem is on this particular property?
Well, it's physically floodplain, within the floodplain limits. And then there's already an easement for the county, and it's in a riparian corridor, which is a setback. So the future use of that portion of the property, either with or without this new easement, future use is very limited legally, not to mention physically. It floods.
All right, I was just wondering about that, though, because that'd give you the right to do whatever you want on that.
You're talking about the county, what
Yeah,
they want to do.
I know.
I'm valuing the easement itself.
I know, I was just curious about that, though.
And Mr. Coons, is there any opportunity to lessen that? And if so, what would that cause? Lessen the 100?
Well, first I did want to point out that the easement gives the county the right to come in and do the maintenance and repairs that might be necessary, but it also leaves in place the owner's right to utilize the land in any fashion that may not restrict our maintenance efforts and repair efforts. So, they can still do really whatever they were intending on to do on that parcel. Again, if they wanted to, say, put a pavilion in, we want to take a look at where they would want to put it, and we could grant them a revocable use permit for even something like that, or other facilities that they might want to put in, maybe a fence or something that's not going to restrict our ability to get in there and do maintenance. We'd have to look at the location.
Excuse me, would that be at their cost? If they wanted to put a pavilion there or a fence, that would be at their cost, correct?
Well, yes, there'd be any
Okay,
improvement.
yeah, I'm just saying, but, because they're not being offered that much for the property is what I'm saying.
Right. Well, that's something different than, it's not related to the value of the land.
No, I'm sorry, Marvin, could you come up forward?
Marvin, yeah.
Sure. Do you have a question? Mr. Wilhite?
I'd like to have a sidebar with you and members of the committee, real quickly, if I could.
I don't mind you asking me a legal question.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes. My apologies, ladies and gentlemen, just had a procedural question there. If I could ask, has there been any, the offer of $3,100 was made, has there been any counter offer at all?
Just 31. They offered 3,100. No.
Okay.
No. We made a counter proposal and.
What was that amount?
That was 10,000. That was based on the 50%. You can see it on the on that analysis that I did. That was based on 50% of the value. I was going for the high end, of course, but somewhere between that 3,100 and 10,000, there is a number that everybody could be happy with. And I'll point out a couple of things. One, we're not building any kind of pavilion. We're not going to put up a fence. We're going to use it, keep it as it is, maybe a bridge over the creek at some point to get from one side to the other. But I'll point out that one of the terms Mr. Kuntz used is that if we wanted to do that, they would give us a revocable use permit. So what does that tell you? Revocable means it can be taken away. Nobody's really answered the question with that easement. In the future, can you come in and do what you like? And the answer is yes. Once that easement is purchased, the county, the government entity that owns that easement can come in and do what they like with that property. Not that we think they're going to, but we have to take that into consideration when looking at the compensation.
Okay.
Okay. Thank you.
Ms. Swindell, did you have a comment you want to make?
Heidi Swindell, Summit County Engineer's Office. I wanted to clarify one thing. The riparian setback and the flood zone drops the value of the land. That's why the land use, when you get the appraisal, is based on a lower amount because they can't develop that land. It's not as valuable as the other land. I just wanted to make that clear.
Thank you.
You're saying that's why the appraisal is lower than the fiscal office, because they're taking into account the restriction.
Yeah, the restriction.
Thank you. Anything? Go ahead. Mr. Ford.
Yeah.
If you
We can't build in that riparian.
if the county already has an easement, why is another easement necessary?
Mr. Coons.
Yeah, this project, it doesn't show there. About 2/3 of the project does have an existing easement from the Norton Corp line northerly to one of the original lot lines. But that location is south of this location. So for the northwestern third of the project, there is no existing easement in place. And the Spring Garden Water School falls within that northwestern third where there is no existing easement. So that's why we need a new easement here.
So the riparian easement is not on this piece of property? Or
Well, the
is it?
riparian setback is.
The setback is.
That follows every stream.
Okay.
And that's actually a township, in Copley, it's a township zoning restriction.
And then what was the other
The
easement?
other one is the FEMA 100-year floodplain limits.
Okay.
Floodplain is, of course, established by nature. FEMA does calculations to determine the width during the 100-year storm. And
So
that's
right
what's
now,
shown.
right now, as it exists, before we say yay or nay, for example, there is no access for the county onto this property where you would need to work. Is that what you're saying?
Yes, we're actually, you can see on the very right edge is Plainview Road. That is a established road right-of-way. However, it's not built at that location. There's no pavement there. And that is where we're going to put our access driveway. The access road's going to come down Plainview, and then after it crosses the creek, it will follow the creek on the south side, which then gets off of the center line, the match line, and will probably come down the middle. It gets onto another property owned by Jacoby Companies, and that is not shown here. Yeah, well, let's see. The other one's just a larger scale. I don't think I have one, Mark, of that, yeah.
Okay, at this point, if there is,
And could I just add one
Yes, sir.
further thing? Thank you. Riparian rights are there. Riparian rights exist by any body of water, any creek. So the riparian rights are there, and it restricts building in those riparian rights, but it's not an easement. It doesn't give them the right to come in and do anything. It just restricts our building. Thank you.
okay, at this point, is there
Jeff.
anyone else? Oh, I'm sorry, Aaron, pardon me.
So if some of the properties already have easements and some do not, is the compensation greater for the properties that don't already have an easement? How is that factored into the valuation?
We look at the level of impact on future use of a new easement, and the floodplain and the riparian corridor already limit use almost down to the point of it just being recreational use. The easement is just on top of that, and it's I don't know how that would be enforced and how strong that easement is, since we're here today, and they want a new easement. But there are a lot of layers that restrict use of this property already, both natural and legal. So the impact of this proposed easement is going to be very minimal, if any, above the flood hazard and the riparian corridor.
Okay, but if there's already an easement in some places, is the easement being expanded or on those properties? And does that affect the compensation, or are you saying that since that easement as it exists isn't really, I don't know, I guess the riparian rights are limiting the property so much as it is that the easement's not?
Yes,
Yeah.
property rights and the floodplain restricts physical use.
Okay, so the use is already restricted, so that's keeping the value lower.
Yes.
Okay.
So the new easement really isn't going to make any difference.
Yeah, I understand you would disagree with that.
Yeah, the easement does make it. We understand that with the riparian rights, there can't be, we can't do building on there without permission from Copley Township, different things. But that doesn't give the county the right to come in and do anything they want on that property. When there's this large easement on that property, they can, if they want to, come in and do whatever they want over that 1.3794 acres that they're seeking. So we understand riparian rights, we understand our use for this property is restricted, but I think that's some of the confusion here, is people are looking at this as being a piece of property that's completely undevelopable. We can't build on it. We don't want to build on it. We want to use it for the education of our students. So that's our concern, is that large easement, not today, but sometime in the future.
So noted.
What
Thank you.
limitations are there on what the county can do? Because the county can't do whatever it wants, right?
Well, it's a ditch easement, so the work would be related to the ditch, either repair, maintenance of the ditch, and conceivably it could be a two-stage ditch put at that location. There could be some work that, like we're doing in some other locations, but it's all ditch related. It's not going to be a sanitary sewer. It's not going to be a water line. Those are not permissible on this ditch easement.
Thank you. Okay, at this point, are there any more opponents to parcel 51, also known as Spring Garden Waldorf School?
Before we go on, I did have a question for engineer. I had one more question for you. I was like looking at my notes. Could you please tell me the last time this has ever been maintenanced, all of this whole area? By any chance, do you have, or even know when it was maintenance? Because I was looking back, like when you said that after legislation after August 23rd, 1957, gave the right to do the maintenance. I'm just curious, has maintenance ever been done on this?
There was maintenance done on part of the ditch. I think really just the part that was, that did have the easement over it. So not this particular segment, but the segment, say the lower 2/3 of it, there was some maintenance work done. It was cleaned out. We found some plans for that work, I believe was in the 1960s. But nothing on this particular segment. It's just been a natural waterway.
Second call for any opponents wishing to speak on this item.
Mr. Wilhite, I have an additional question, if it's okay. Thank you. So the easement, at this time, the school was given an indication that, a verbal indication that there would not be large equipment used, but just handheld tools. Is that what I'm understanding? It was written, okay.
Right, and
then,
it's in our plans.
okay, so that then would extend into the next generation, that large equipment would not be used in this easement.
No, that's the plan for this particular project. You know, if there was some major issue with this segment of stream, it might require, mechanized equipment to clear it. We're responsible to make sure this ditch remains functional, and if there was some issue that required equipment, we would have an obligation to go in and take care of the problem so that we don't cause flooding to the properties upstream. Okay.
David?
I just have a question. Will the maintenance and repair of the ditch add to the value of the property or to the health, welfare, well-being of the people that work or are educated on that property?
Well, I think it would add to the value. I don't know if our appraiser would like to speak to it as well, but having the stream cleared, having the work done on this segment as well as downstream, make the ditch flow more efficiently and will reduce the flooding on this segment of stream as well as other segments of the stream.
So it's a flooding mitigation?
Yes.
And I have a follow-up. With regard to the percentage, you spoke a little bit to this. I think I'm dovetailing on what President Dickinson was talking about. My question again was about process, and what I heard was a major criterion for determining the percentage for compensation is the usefulness in terms of building on that land or using that land in some way. The presentation by the school's attorney had mentioned that it's not just about building on the property, but it's also about the usefulness for educating children. Can we flesh that out? Is that the only criterion? There was a mention that it was somewhat arbitrary in determining the percentage, and so I'd like to give you an opportunity to go through that process in a little bit more detail.
Sure. The percentage is based on our perception of the impact, the incremental impact of this proposed easement on that portion of the property relative to its existing limitations. A typical utility easement placed on a property, say across the front yard at your street, sewer easement, water easement, those easements are compensation for those easements are typically calculated at 50% of fee simple value. This easement is a much lower amount because it has much less impact. It's on the portion of the property that has very limited use. There's just no impact from it. I don't know that it will affect market value of the property at all, this easement.
Okay.
I doubt it.
And So you talked a little bit about perception. Do you look at comparable?
Yes. I've appraised thousands of easements for different purposes. Ideally, the analysis to calculate appropriate compensation is to do what we call a paired sales analysis, where we'll look at a sale of a property and we'll look at a sale of another very similar property that was encumbered by an easement. And we'll look at the price difference between those two, assuming we can isolate how the easement on the second property affected the price. We can discuss it with the agent, the users of the property. It's not real scientific, and you do it 10 times, you get 10 different answers. But the compensation for these easements is consistent over time. Like I said, we have appraised thousands of them. Quite often it's based on 50% of fee, unless there's much less of an impact. And so this property, the easement will have a very limited effect on use of it in the future, use relative to what you can use it for now.
Okay. Thank you. I just want to understand the process a little bit better. I appreciate that.
My pleasure.
Anybody else?
If I may, there's been a lot of talk about the appraisal. I do have a copy of it. I would like to give to the court reporter to enter in the record. Thank you.
Jeff, just one question.
Sure.
How many people or how many easements or homeowners involved in this? And how much is the total cost for all the easements?
John, it's on your last sheet there.
77,000.
Yeah, I couldn't read through all.
Right, it was in the final report. There were, well,
But just for the
51
record.
easements, $77,000 more or less for.
Okay, thank you. Second call for anyone else who wishes to speak opposed. This is parcel number 51, strictly Spring Garden Waldorf School at this time. Anyone wishing to speak in opposition? Okay, third time, anyone wishing to speak in opposition of parcel 51, Spring Garden Waldorf School? Okay, hearing none. Are there any other questions from members of council on this item? Anyone else? Okay, I'm going to ask for a motion to affirm the engineer's schedule of compensation and damages. Do I have a motion on that?
I just have one question. I'm sorry to interrupt. I wasn't sure what the next step was. Does council have discretion at this point to look at altering the percentage that the school would get?
Yes, absolutely.
Yes.
And
So
when
I'm
would that happen?
I'm going to call for 3 different motions. You can go with the motion that you
Okay,
wish to
thank
go.
you.
Okay, so so that was motion. No, I've heard no one affirm a motion to accept the engineer's schedule of compensation. Is that
Mr.
correct?
Chairman, I would so move.
We have a motion to accept the engineer's schedule of compensation. All those in favor?
Mr. Chair, could I speak to that motion?
Yes, go ahead.
The thinking here is that as we look at the schedule exhibit, well, attachment D, we see all the values everyone has so far accepted.
No, we're doing each one.
We see the amounts that everyone else has accepted on the various 64 parcels, and see that they're all basically in line. And you can see the size on column 3, the approved easement amount in this third to last column, and you can see that they do follow a certain range. Understand that what we're doing here is a government taking of someone's property right. And the question we need to ask ourselves is, what is being deprived from the school? They currently cannot build in this easement anyway, right? We know that just by virtue of the floodplain and the riparian zone. They don't want to build in this zone. They have no desire to build there. And it sounds like the scope of the easement itself is limited to managing this ditch. And as to the current management of the ditch, we've agreed in writing to not disturb the area surrounding the ditch, to not disturbing the general bank or outlier path of the ditch itself. And so in essence, you have to ask yourself, what are they being deprived of at all? They've been deprived of the right that possibly maybe will come do something different someday. That's not very much. We haven't been there in decades and haven't done anything in decades, and it's entirely possible that someday when we go back to maintain the ditch again, we would also potentially agree to do that with hand tools. And so in my mind, that their compensation is in line with the other property owners' compensation. They've lost no ability to build. The property right is thus not marginally affected very much. They have no right to build. They have no intention to build. And so for those reasons, Mr. Chair, I do move that we affirm the engineer's proposed compensation.
Thank you, Mr. Cation. And this is only for parcel number 51. This is not the others. Oh, Mr. Schmidt, I'm sorry.
Yeah, thanks, Jeff. So is this a council meeting at this point? Are we all voting on this, or is this in committee, or what's the status of the meeting right now?
Full council. Full council.
Full council's voting. Well, then, okay. Right. So we've been advised by who drew this up?
What do you have? I don't have.
Mr. Evans, could you go, Marvin, could you go to the microphone, please, and maybe clarify some of these things for council?
Are we being advised to take a vote on something tonight? Because we don't even have legislation in front of us yet. That's being introduced tonight.
The process is that council may decide to adjust this schedule of compensation. That really needs to be done separately from the legislation, because the legislation has actually been introduced. It'll be introduced tonight.
Right.
It'll be introduced tonight.
Right.
And to move that forward, council actually needs to know what compensation is going to be paid. So for the purpose of this hearing, it's laid out in the revised code that at a hearing or a continuation of the hearing, council is going to vote on either affirming the engineer's estimates of compensation or making the adjustments as has been discussed. So while it could potentially be done through legislation, it's also appropriate to do it via a motion so that, frankly, you know what the legislation is going to be.
Okay. And John, you agree? You familiar with it?
So everyone in council is going to have to vote on it, and the compensation would need to be set to do the legislation, so you can actually know what you're passing. Obviously, if you didn't set the compensation, you wouldn't know the expense of the project.
Right.
Well, thank you.
So
Thank you.
It's a unique proceeding. It's only more unique by our charter of public government.
Thanks, Jeff.
Okay. So we have a motion on the floor by Mr. Cation. All those in favor?
Aye.
I want to clarify. We're only voting on one parcel at this
Yes,
time.
number
and
51.
At the end, we will vote on the entirety of everything. Okay, thank you.
If I may, Ms. Walters, just correct one thing. You're voting on whether to affirm the valuation as given by the engineer for this particular parcel. For the overall project, that will be done through your normal legislation. So you're not, this is really just adjusting or not adjusting this particular value. Then the legislation is going to be introduced to, and this would be an amendment to that if you were to change it or not.
I got it.
And then you'll vote on the legislation for approval of the overall project.
And so the only reason why we're doing this is because we have 4 specific property owners who have come forth with a formal challenge.
Correct.
Okay,
and
thank you.
yeah, and this is for addressing that one at this point.
Thanks.
And then the other, right, the other property owners will be coming up to,
Yes,
okay, all right, just so I know.
if they choose to. So we have a motion on the floor to accept the engineer's schedule of compensation. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Roll call, please.
Mr. Smith,
Aye.
Ms. Hyam, Mr. Donofrio,
Aye.
Mr. Cajun,
Aye.
Ms. Dickinson,
Aye.
Mr. Ford, Mr. Wilhite,
Yes.
Ms. Darrow, Mr. Lacotte,
Aye.
Ms. McKinney,
No.
Ms. Walters.
Yes.
I've been advised that it's a simple majority in this instance, so we have 6 votes affirmative.
Okay, thank you. Okay, next up is parcel number 18. The exception was given from a Mrs. Caitlin Matovich. Ms. Matovich, are you here? Please, sir, your name and address. Push the button, sir, at the bottom. The green light will, thank you.
My name is Scott Matovich. I live at 1751 Lakeland Avenue, Copley, Ohio.
Okay.
Our issue with this project is not the scope of the project. We understand that it needs to happen. We've lived in our house for a number of years. We see it flood often when we get a heavy rain. Our issue is, and it has been since this came out, is there is an easement on our property. I've asked multiple times what the easement entails, what it states. Is it a, this is how it is, or is it a shared use easement? But I was given a document from 1938. It says that it's a right-of-way. So I asked what type of right-of-way it is. I'm not getting any answers about the specifics that we have. And why it's so important to us is because this creek runs right beside our house. It is no more than, the creek bank, I would say, is probably no more than 40 feet off the side of our house. One that we just put a significant addition on that was approved by Summit County and Copley Township. And this kind of touches base with the Waldorf School. We were given a variance to build inside the riparian setback and the floodplain and all of that by Copley Township. They approved it. We have all the documentation. So you can build inside the riparian setback as long as the township or whoever sees it fit. As this project unrolled, Summit County didn't even have our updated site plan of our property for our addition that we put on our house. They proposed this new easement. It ran straight through the side of our house. Brian was out several times, or actually one time. I talked to him several times on the phone, and they did adjust the easement away from our house, the permanent easement that they're stating, which now it's, instead of running through our house, it's no more than 2 feet off of the side of our house. I was told by Summit County that we can't do anything within this easement on our property. So right now we have a yard barn that sits in the easement, or the proposed permanent easement. Now they will give us the, I forget what the term is, but the variance, I guess, to have that yard barn there. But if they were to come in and do anything, we would have to move the yard barn. We can't even put a walkway from our driveway to our back patio because it's going to be within this permanent easement. So our biggest question this whole time has been, provide us the documentation that shows that there's an actual easement on our property. We've talked to the title agency. There's no records of an easement attached to our property. We've looked at our title in Schedule B. There's nothing that's stated there. It states that there's a utility easement across the front of our property, and that's all. Nothing further. I've asked Copley Township. I have dozens of emails back and forth with Summit County and Copley Township, just asking for these simple questions to be answered, because unlike a lot of the properties that this project is going on, it's all in their backyards. This is right beside our house. And we want to know what the long-term goal is. If this is a shared use right away from this document in 1938, does that take into account for all the mature trees that are on our property that are in this right of way? So if it's a shared use right of way, then we have to there's a give and take between the county and the homeowner on what goes on. So with this permanent easement being put in place, we don't have any say anymore. So we have a couple dozen very mature trees that are worth a lot of money. So if the county comes in 10 years and says, oh, we need to dredge this whole creek out, they're going to cut down all of our trees. Are they going to replace them? No, because nobody's told us that. Nobody's told us, are we going to get paid for those trees? Which we won't after the permanent easement's put in place. We want to know what the long-term effects are going to be on our property, because yes, they did reduce the easement so it doesn't run through our house anymore. If there isn't an actual easement and it's just shared use right away, and they make this the permanent easement, what's they're going to stop them from in 15 years? Oh, this creek needs to be double the size. So they're going to come in and widen this creek by 20 feet, which is then going to run right beside our house. What's that going to do to our house? Is it going to compromise our foundation? Is it going to it's going to definitely compromise our property value, the value of our home. There's a section in this document from 1938 that states that if the creek base, so where the water lays, is less than 20 feet, 30 feet on each bank for the ditch of each ditch. In addition, the width of the right-of-way is measured at a right angle of the center of the creek. It's a very convoluted part of this document. I've asked Copley Township, I've asked Brian, I've asked several people to tell me how they view this segment, because it drastically changes the width of this creek, the right-of-way. Nobody will give me an answer. If you read it as it says in here, it says that you are 30 feet off the center line of the creek on either side, and that's the shared use right-of-way, which our easement that they proposed originally was 120 feet wide. They're claiming that they were only going to widen it by, I believe it was 10 feet on each side. So if this section of this document is true and the actual right-of-way is only 30 feet wide, then they're stealing or taking a significant amount of property from us that we're not being paid for. The money is not the issue here. That's not what I'm looking for, compensation for anything. I'm looking for direct answers on how they came up with what the current easement is. Is there actually a current easement? Because that has not been given to me. The only document that I've been given is this right-of-way from 1938. There's just a lot of very unclear answers that aren't being answered. And it drastically impacts our property, because this creek just doesn't run down the side of our property. It goes down the side and then 45s over across our backyard. At points in our property, from where the easement is to the center of the creek, is 80 feet wide. Much more than what they're saying it is. And I understand the creek winds and varies and they want to keep nice straight lines and all of that to make it feasible, but why do they need so much property? Why are they taking so much property from us? Now, I understand there's a riparian setback in the floodplain and this and that. I was told by an official at Copley Township, you can get a variance to build in the riparian setback, or you can get the riparian setback adjusted based on your situation. Where our house sits on our property, for that area to ever flood, the water would have to come up roughly 22 feet for that water to ever touch our house, because the creek drops off. It's so low. So we could probably get our riparian setback adjusted to where we could do something on the side of our house to make it more usable. We like our property. We love where we live. We just invested a boatload of money into this, into our property, and we feel like it's being taken unfairly because we're not being given the answers that we're looking for. Very, very simple, clear. We just want an explanation. That's all. We're not opposed to the project. We just want to know what's going to happen on our property in 10 years, 20 years, 30 years. How is it going to affect our value? Because if there isn't a current easement stating that these survey points are where the current easement is, and it is based off of this measurement from 1938, then they are well outside of their boundaries of where they should be working. And my biggest fear is that in 10 years, another part of Copley gets developed and they decide that they need to run that stormwater through that creek. Well, now that creek's not big enough, so they make it bigger and just completely trash our property because we're at the south end of this creek. We're not on the north end more on the south end where all the water's flowing to. We did file an exception with the court. I believe you guys were all aware of that. We just are looking for these answers to be given to us before anything is put into place, because I mean could very significantly affect us.
Thank you, sir. Any questions from members of council? Okay. David, you want to address his concerns, please?
Okay, yeah, we did understand his concerns. First off, the existing right-of-way, the 1938 document, this is something that I did email to Mr. Matovich on May 1st. And this is from our ditch records that we have on file in our office. A little bit about that. The ditch records, we've researched this over the last week or so trying to find, well, why can't someone find it when they go to the recorder? They are not recorded. The ditch records are kept by the county engineer, and we have those in our ditch record books, and that is where they are. So you won't find them at the recorder. But in response to this exception, we determined that we would not take a new easement at all on this property. And you have the interoffice memo dated June 11th. This is parcel number 18. And there is an existing easement, as I noted out. And we did demonstrate the necessity, though we're not taking a new easement anymore. The proposed easement was to be 30 feet from the top of bank, again, following the pattern of the existing, but with some straight lines. So as he was noted, it would end up being wider in some places. So we did determine to back it off and just not take a new easement on this particular parcel. It would be our preference to have a new easement, but we do have that existing easement, and we do have, by the virtue of it being a county ditch easement, we have the right to do maintenance within that area. So we've decided that we would just back off and work within the existing easement. On this particular property, we do not have one of our primary work areas, so this is another one where the only work would be the contractor's crew would go in with hand tools, remove any obstructions that they may find there to make sure this stream is functional. So again, no new easement, so that you see a compensation in the table revised to no compensation because there's no new easement. And that's, I don't know if you had any other questions.
So David, if I understand right, Mr. Matulovich's property will not be impeded in any way going forward, other than hand tool cleaning of the existing?
Right. Well, there is an existing easement that extends to 30 feet from the bank. And if that bank moves, that 30 feet moves. But we're not doing any work with this project other than the handwork.
Okay. In the spirit of fairness, is there any way that not just the Matoviches, but anybody can get access to understanding easements on their property? Because as he has mentioned in his testimony, that he can't find anything anywhere. I think it's only fair that the property owner understands completely what's on their property. How would we do that?
Yeah, we do have them on file, and like I said, I did provide the easement or the right-of-way documentation to him. I emailed that on May 1st. Now, I started digging into it to see, well, how could someone find it if it's not at the recorder? If you go on the county GIS map, there are two ways to actually see the easement. If you go to the parcel viewer and click on a property, you can open up the, there's a tab where you can open up old tax maps. You know, the old paper tax maps before it went on GIS. That tax map does show the easement on it. And there's also, if you're on the engineer viewer, you can click on the layer for county ditches, and it shows a blue line where the ditch is. Not the width of the easement in either case, but it shows that there is a ditch there, and it says the county ditch number. And then a person would have to call our office in our survey department, and they can look up that county ditch record for you.
So
And kind of bridging, I was like, is there anything available on your website that explains like what an easement is and what it entitles the county to do in this instance? I think that's part of the confusion some residents have, is like what in the future could happen, right?
Yeah, we have on our website some information regarding the county ditches and the property owner's responsibility. We do have a flyer on our website, Ditches, Drains, and Water Courses of Summit County. And I did send that also via email on May 1st to Mr. Matovich. So, yeah, if you have a major waterway in your property, there is a waterway there, and there could be a ditch, maybe not. Also, there is code in the county and in the state that limits what you can do along a waterway. You can't divert it. You can't dam it up. You know, this is just state code, you know.
Mr. Matovich, do you have anything else you'd like to say, sir?
I do have a question for you. So,
Please speak into the mic, sir.
So if Summit County is not extending the easement or doing anything with the easement on our property, is it going to stay the right-of-way?
It's going to stay that right-of-way from the 1938 document, yes.
Okay. So can we get clarification on what the measurements entail? Because your survey points that you guys came out to do not reflect at all what this says. Because they're, like I said, based off of this, with the measurements of the property, there's portions of my backyard that it is very easily 60 feet into my property, not 30 feet off of the creek bank.
We want to have this done offline.
Pardon me?
Have this done offline.
Okay. Okay. If you would get with the engineer after the hearing, they can work with you on that, sir.
Okay, I guess also, I would like to know or have something put into place for future work on our property. So if they're not making this a permanent easement and they're going to keep this a right-of-way, then I want to know what say I have in what happens on our property.
And that can be discussed with the engineer.
What these hearings are, anytime modifications to a ditch could happen, we'll go through this process when that happens, right? So there'll always be some version of a public hearing when anything extensive is changing on a ditch plat map.
Okay.
You'll have
So
that
that's Ohio Revised Code that we're held to across the county.
Okay.
Yeah, we can, I'll probably have to talk with our surveyor and with either the prosecutor or Mr. Evans, and we can come up with a document that clearly defines what our rights are and your rights on that existing right-of-way. I agree, that doesn't really spell it all out. But we could get that together, and we meet with you.
Are you guys voting tonight on if this project's going to move forward?
There's no action on your parcel, if it's been stayed, correct, Marvin, is that right?
Correct. You're not voting on the project itself going forward. The plans.
Four people made objections to the amount.
All right.
They were making the easement. One we've already voted on. This one, there is no easement. It's
Right.
broad, so
The plans have been, the plans have been adjusted, so there is no new easement
Okay.
on this property.
The overall project will go forward, but you will not be affected by that.
Okay, so that is present time and in the future. So I'll be able to set up a discussion with the engineer's office about what future work is gonna or could possibly transpire on my property.
You can have those discussions with the engineer, yes, sir.
Okay.
Great.
All right. Well, thank you.
Thank you. Okay. I'm going to make the 3 calls for anyone else wishing to speak against parcel number 18. We're just doing that parcel right now. Okay? Anyone wishing to speak in opposition for the second time on parcel number 18, 1751 Lakeland Avenue? Anyone else wishing to speak in opposition? Okay, hearing none, we'll move on to the final parcel number 23. Is 1760 to 64 Lakeland Avenue. Are you Andrew Thorne?
That's me, sir.
Please state your name and your address, sir.
Yes, I'm Andrew Thorne, 1760 and 1764 Lakeland Avenue. Very related. Really, I'm not against the project either. Would love the ditch cleaned out. My issue is the easement as well. So I couldn't find any evidence that an easement does exist. I do realize you say that it's not related since we're not talking about the addition of the easement. We're talking about an existing easement. I would say that it is related if that easement does not exist, which is where I'm still not so sure either. I did get my easement removed as well, so and I appreciate that very much if that's not needed. That's gone. My issue is what the existing easement is. I couldn't find anything either. I looked everywhere, and then the 1938 document was the only thing I could find as well. There is a document from the last cleanout, 2015, that doesn't mention easements. Sorry. But it does mention that it's responsibility of the property owners, which to me makes it sound like there's not an easement, but that's not evidence. What I can't find is a document or proof that an easement exists. I think the GIS was just mentioned. I just quickly take a look. I don't see anything on my property. It's all green residential, so I do not see an existing easement, and that's my issue.
Any questions for Mr. Thorne? Okay. David, same issue, same scenario as the, okay. We will follow up with you, sir, in the exact same manner that we will with the
My issue is
Matoviches.
if it goes through tonight, then I believe that does become an easement. Is that correct?
No.
So if this goes through, then the plat would count. Okay.
This, all we'll be sending through is giving the engineer the ability to do the whole project, but each individual easement.
But I believe the plats, if they're published with that right of way, they become a document for that easement. Is that correct? Or?
Not tonight.
Okay. Thank you.
Okay.
Ms. Marshall, she's for or against, but she does have a question about the project overall.
Okay. Yes. Ms. Marshall, I understand you have a question of the project. If you would please face the court reporter and be sworn in before you make comment. Raise your hand.
Sure. Yeah, I had been at one of these previous meetings and realized at that meeting that there were plans to use our private lane for access and also to dump some of the soil that they dug out onto our property. And I just wanted to make sure that got changed.
Yes, good evening. I do remember you from, I believe it was the public viewing, the meeting in Copley Township, correct? Yes, after listening to you at that meeting, I did talk with the engineer, and we did remove that access drive and that storage area from your property. So that's why your property it's simply a ditch easement. There's no storage area, no access. Those access and storage are going to be from the City of Akron property just to your north, where the old wastewater treatment plant used to be. Now it's an Akron pump station. That is going to be the only one in that area.
Okay.
Yeah.
Thanks.
You're welcome.
Okay. Anyone else wishing to speak in opposition to parcel number 23? Second request, opposition to parcel number 23. Third request, opposition to parcel number 23. Okay. Hearing none, please be advised that a final decision will be pursuant to legislation authorizing the county engineer to proceed with the project and advertise for construction bids, or by rejecting such legislation and dismissing the petition as set forth in the revised code section 6131.21. I will adjourn this hearing at 6:21.
And now we proceed to our regular council meeting. There will be 5 motions tonight. M36, 2026 on the Criminal Justice Advisory Board. M37, 2026 regarding the Audit Committee. M38, 2026 regarding the Akron Metropolitan Area Transportation Study Policy Committee. M39, 2026 all regarding the Akron Metropolitan Area Transportation Technical Advisory Committee, and M40 2026 regarding Tax Incentives Review Council. Do we have David Messner present? Yes.
Thought about not being present. Thank you very much. Good to see everyone this evening. David Messner, Deputy Director in Community and Economic Development. Happy to answer any questions. I'm hoping there aren't any, but here for whatever you may need.
Well, thank you for being here.
Well, thank you for having me.
There are 22 first readings. There's one first reading passage request, 2026-168. Phil Montgomery will address us.
Thank you, Madam President. Phil Montgomery from the Executive's Department of Finance and Budget. We have before Council this cycle's appropriation requests. First page, first item is a reduction of appropriations of $10.2 million. This is a capital project that had a carryover balance that we don't think we're going to need right now, so we're going to just go ahead and reduce that budget appropriation. The next one is appropriating $33,000 in the Summit for Kids Fund. That is the amount of cash available in that fund. That used to be a program that was ran in coordination with the juvenile court, and these funds have been brought before council to help support the Youth Success Summit and some other youth-focused organizations and events. The last item on page 1 is appropriations for a grant received for the community-based correctional facilities. On page 2, the first item, this is an appropriation, essentially a transfer. So we're moving forward. Council has previously approved the Sallyport project at the jail. So we're reallocating $189,000 from other capital projects into the capital project fund to complete that project. The next two are appropriations out of the 911 fund for public safety. On page 3, we have an appropriation, several appropriations, or two, I'm sorry, for new grants for the sheriff. The last one on that page is a new grant for the law library, a small $2,500 grant. The next 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9 items are appropriation adjustments for the Common Police Court to close out these various grants and projects. So that puts me on to page 6. The second item on there is an appropriation for the engineer for Chrisman Road. And then we have some appropriation adjustments to close out some prior year projects in our HWAP under the Department of Community and Economic Development, as is the last item on the last page. So total request of a new appropriation of $2.1 million, $2.2 million, and a reduction of appropriations of $10.2 million. And with that, I'd be happy to answer any questions.
Any questions for Phil? John, are you okay with this? Okay. There are no late filings. We have routine legislation, which can be found on pages 9 through 11. There are no second readings. There are no third readings. We'll now rise for the Pledge of Allegiance, led by Councilwoman Liz Walters, followed by a moment of silence.
Mr. Smith?
Here.
Ms. Hyam? Mr. Donofrio? Mr. Cajun? Ms. Dickinson?
Here.
Mr. Ford?
Here.
Mr. Wilhite?
Here.
Ms. Darrow? Here. Mr. Lacotte?
Here.
Ms. McKinney?
Here.
Ms. Walters?
Can I have a motion to approve the minutes from June 1st, 2026?
So moved.
All in favor? Aye. Any opposed? Motion carries.
Motions for council. M36, 2026. A motion of council confirming the appointment of William Owens as alternate to Judge David Hamilton and the reappointment of interim fire chief John Rodriguez to the Criminal Justice Advisory Board.
So moved.
I have a motion by Councilman Schmidt to adopt M36, 2026. All in favor? Aye. Any opposed? Motion carries.
M37, 2026, a motion of council confirming the reappointments of Danielle Kimmel and Laura Wallerstein to the Audit Committee.
So moved.
A motion by Councilwoman Walters to adopt M37, 2026. All in favor? Aye. Any opposed? Motion carries.
M38, 2026, a motion of council confirming the appointment of David Messner, replacing Caitlin Elrad Smith to the Akron Metropolitan Area Transportation Study AMATS Policy Committee.
I have a motion. Did you hear who that was?
Mr. Schmidt, was that you, sir? Thank you, sir.
I have a motion from Councilman Schmidt to adopt M38, 2026. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries.
M39, 2026, a motion of council confirming the appointment of David Messner, replacing Caitlin Elrad Smith as the alternate to Diane Miller Dawson to the Akron Metropolitan Area Transportation AMATS Technical Advisory Committee.
I have a motion by Councilman Wilhite to adopt M39, 2026. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries.
M40, 2026, a motion of council confirming the appointment of David Messner, replacing Caitlin Elrad Smith as the alternate to Diane Miller Dawson to the Tax Incentives Review Council.
Motion by Councilwoman Walters to adopt M40, 2026. All in favor? Aye. Any opposed? Motion carries.
First readings, 2026-168, a resolution appropriating funds in order to meet projected expenditures for the balance of 2026 as set forth in Exhibit A for the Executive's Department of Finance and Budget Emergency.
Madam President, move to suspend the rules and adopt 2026-168.
I have a motion by Councilman Donofrio to suspend and adopt 2026-168. On the suspension, all in favor? Aye. Any opposed? And on the adoption, all in favor? Aye. Any opposed? Motion carries.
2026-169, a resolution confirming the award by the Board of Control of a professional service contract with Wickard Insurance Services Incorporated, doing business as Wickard Insurance, as a best practical source to provide brokerage services for the county's property, liability, boiler, and machinery insurance program, and to provide claim reporting services using RiskMaster for a 5-year term from July 1, 26 through June 30, 31, and in an amount not to exceed $759,000 for the Executive's Department of Law and Risk Management Emergency. 2026-170, a resolution approving the proposed public improvement known as Springfield Township Springfield Lake Outlet County Ditch Number 45 Petition Drainage Improvement Project pursuant to Section 6131.21 of the Ohio Revised Code, and approving the engineer's schedule of compensation to be paid for easements pursuant to Section 6131.19 of the Ohio Revised Code, and waiving assessments pursuant to Section 6131.22 of the Ohio Revised Code. Emergency. 2026-171, a resolution approving the proposed public improvement known as Copley Township's County Ditch Number 38 Petition Drainage Improvement Project pursuant to Section 6131.21 of the Ohio Revised Code, and approving the engineer's schedule of compensation to be paid for easements pursuant to Section 6131.19 of the Ohio Revised Code, and waiving assessments pursuant to Section 6131.22 of the Ohio Revised Code. Emergency. 2026-172, a resolution confirming the award by the Board of Control of Change Order Number 2 to a professional service contract with Woodward Incorporated for geographic information, system mapping, surveying, engineering, and adjunct services as part of the countywide stormwater mapping project, in an amount not to exceed $170,000 for a cumulative increase of 34.32% for a total amount not to exceed $1,175,000 for the engineer. Emergency. 2026-173, a resolution authorizing the executive to enter into an intergovernmental agreement with the City of Akron, providing a $250,000 grant for the city's reconstruction of South Main Street between West Cedar Street and West Barges Street, in support of the expansion of GPD Group, relocation of the headquarters for Buckingham, Doolittle, and Burroughs Limited Liability Company, and retention of other businesses serviced by this segment of South Main Street located in the City of Akron in Council District 4 for the executive and engineer. Emergency. 2026-174, a resolution declaring the failure in the pump station number 123 Force Main on Valley View Road located in the cities of Macedonia and Hudson in Council Districts 1 and 3 an emergency pursuant to Section 177.07A3 of the Codified Ordinances of the County of Summit, and confirming the award by the Board of Control of a construction contract with Wingfoot Rental and Development Company in an amount not to exceed $425,941.74 for an emergency repair to the force main for the Executive's Department of Sanitary Sewer Services. Emergency. 2026-175, a resolution authorizing the executive to execute an agreement with the City of Barberton, setting forth the scope of duties, manner of performance, and all other essential terms and conditions whereby the county shall enforce Part 13 of the Codified Ordinances of the County of Summit entitled Building Code, which incorporates the 2019 Residential Code of Ohio and the 2024 Ohio Building Code on behalf of and wherein the territorial jurisdiction of the City of Barberton in Council District 7 for the Executive's Department of Sanitary Sewer Services, Division of Building Standards. Emergency. 2026-176, a resolution setting a date for this council pursuant to Section 709.03 of the Ohio Revised Code and Section 125.01I of the Codified Ordinances of the County of Summit to conduct a public hearing to consider the annexation of 2.17 acres of land in Richfield Township to the Village of Richfield for council. Emergency. 2026-177, a resolution authorizing the executive executive to execute a term sheet with the City of Barberton, Ohio, and the Summit County Developmental Disabilities Board for the sale of the real property located at 501 West Hopkinton Avenue, Barberton, Ohio, 44203, identified in the Summit County records as partial numbers 011-6601, 010-6194, 010-8714, and 010-3272 in Council District 7, and the furniture, fixtures, and equipment located therein for the purchase price of $3,100,000, further authorizing the executive to execute all other necessary agreements and documents to undertake the sale as contemplated in the term sheet, including the option for the city to finance the same through the county and the payment of the proceeds to the Summit County Developmental Disabilities Board. For the executive, emergency 2026-178, a resolution confirming the award by the Board of Control of a design-build amendment to the design-build professional service contract with Welty Building Construction Limited Liability Company for the construction phase of the jail pre-intake and Sallyport Addition project located in the city of Akron in Council District 4 in an amount not to exceed $3,819,003 for the Executive's Department of Administrative Services Physical Plants. Emergency 2026-179, a resolution authorizing the executive to advertise for bids for the jail door controls project located in the city of Akron in Council District 4 for an estimated total cost not to exceed $1,900,000 for the Executive's Department of Administrative Services Physical Plants. Emergency 2026-180, a resolution authorizing various service rates to be charged by the sheriff and authorizing the executive to execute contracts for the sheriff for said services for calendar years 2027, 2028, and 2029. For the executive and the sheriff, emergency 2026-181, a resolution confirming the award by the Board of Control of a renewal, first of four, of a purchase contract with 460 Tech Limited Liability Company doing business as B in Court as a best practical source to provide annual maintenance with on-site support for the Criminal Justice Virtual Courtroom Project for a one-year term from July 1, 26 through June 30, 27 for an amount not to exceed $343,960.68 for the Executive's Department of Public Safety. Emergency 2026-182, a resolution confirming the award by the Board of Control of a master service agreement with Needle Incorporated doing business as Aurelian to provide emergency call talkers real-time guidance for calls for various Summit County public safety answering points for implementation and 9 months of service beginning July 1, 26 with 3 options to renew for an additional 12-month term in an amount not to exceed $204,250 for the Executive's Department of Public Safety. Emergency 2026-183, a resolution confirming the award by the Board of Control of a professional service contract with Michael Baker International Incorporated doing business as DataMark for GIS data support for the 911 system and computer-aided dispatch CAD for an amount not to exceed $180,493.23 for the Executive's Department of Public Safety. Emergency 2026-184, a resolution confirming the award of the Board of Control of renewals, first of 2, to professional service contracts and authorizing the executive to disperse funds, including those that exceed an aggregate of $75,000 to all non-emergency medical transportation providers operating under contract with the Executive's Department of Job and Family Services in federal fiscal year 2027 for the period October 1, 26 through September 30, 27, and an estimated total amount not to exceed $11 million for the Executive's Department of Job and Family Services. Emergency 2026-185, a resolution confirming the award by the Board of Control of a purchase contract with the Metro Regional Transit Authority to provide non-emergency medical transportation broker services for a one-year term from October 1, 26 through September 30, 27, and in an amount not to exceed $500,000 for the Executive Executive's Department of Job and Family Services, Emergency. 2026-186, a resolution authorizing the executive to execute an intergovernmental agreement with the Summit County Combined General Health District doing business as Summit County Public Health to increase utilization of health check early, periodic screening, diagnostic, and testing services for young children for a one-year term from October 1, 2026 to September 30, 2027, and in an amount not to exceed $120,000 for the Executive's Department of Job and Family Services, Emergency. 2026-187, a resolution confirming the award by the Board of Control of professional service contracts with various providers for federal fiscal year 2027, utilizing temporary assistance to needy families, Benefit Bridge, State General Revenue Fund, and Food Assistance Employment and Training Funds from October 1, 26 through September 30, 27, in a total amount not to exceed $5,095,050 for the Executive's Department of Job and Family Services, Emergency. 2026-188, a resolution confirming the award by the Board of Control of a professional service contract with United Way of Summit and Medina as a best practical source to provide 211 information and referral line services to assist low-income families in assessing nonprofit and government services to meet basic needs for the period October 1, 26 through September 30, 27, and in an amount not to exceed $100,000 for the Executive's Department of Job and Family Services, Emergency. 2026-189, a resolution confirming the award by the Board of Control to enter into a fifth renewal of a purchase contract with Brinks Incorporated as a best practical source to provide countywide armed car services for a one-year term for the period of July 1, 26 to June 30, 27, and in an amount not to exceed $110,000 for the Executive's Department of Finance and Budget, Emergency.
Madam President, I move to suspend the rules and adopt the routine agenda found on pages 9 through 11.
I have a motion to suspend and adopt the routine legislation found on pages 8 through 10? 9
through 11.
9 through 11. On the suspension, all in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? And on the adoption, all in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. And if there's no other business to come before council, we are adjourned.